Hello and welcome to this webinar on nutrition, health and diet diversity. I'm Dr. Andrew Chappell. I'm the head coach of ProPrep Coaching and I'm going to be talking about this particular topic today. Now, listen guys, if any of you find this information useful and you think that we can help you in any way at all towards your training and dietary goals, then please don't hesitate to get in touch with us after you've gone through this particular webinar. Now, before we start this session, I think there's a number of questions that I think are worthwhile asking yourself. And you can pause the video and you can spend 5 minutes just having a little bit of a think about this. But the questions you want to really ask yourself are you an athlete? How does an athlete eat? How diverse is your own diet? So how diverse is the different food groups that you have in? How many different food items? And what could you do better with your diet to potentially enhance performance? So pause the video and have a little think about that. Okay, so hopefully you had a little think about that and you've come up with your own particular questions which have set you up for this particular session. But when we talk about health and we talk about nutrition, very often we're referencing things like this here. We're talking about things like our Eat Well Guide, which is a healthy, balanced diet, or the Harvard Eating Plate as well, which is a slightly different depiction of very similar information. And if you go around the world, so you look at like the Canadian healthy eating advice, or the Japanese, or the German, or the French, what you tend to see is this sort of uniform recommendations that most of our diet should be made up of fruits and vegetables, whole grains and tubers, healthy proteins, dairy, and that we should be really looking to limit the amount of fats, trans fats, and junk food essentially within our diet. So they're all sort of singing from a similar sort of hymn sheet. Now, before we go on and go any further, I think it's just worth sort of pointing out that the things that I'm going to talk about here today are methods that I utilize with my own particular athletes. We do use evidence-based methods at ProPrep Coaching, so we use a lot of these approaches to help our athletes get in shape. I'm a published researcher in this area, and you can see as well I am also a competitor at the same time. And I've helped lots of different athletes get ready for the stage down years. Here's just a nice selection of some of the athletes that we've worked with over the last few years. You can see here, this is a world championships where athletes are winning pro cards, and then we've got athletes from all classes and all levels competing in these shows as well. So like I said, guys, don't hesitate to get in touch if you think this information is useful and you think that we can potentially help you. So what we're going to talk about in this particular session is why a diet being diverse is important for health. What's the advantages of being perhaps flexible or consistent? What we should consider when making food swaps, and what are some good food swaps that you can potentially make within your diet to boost the diversity. Now, as I've said before, in the previous slides, then a healthy diet looks kind of like this. And it's worth remembering that a high performance diet is also a healthy diet as well. You can quote me on that, but it's something that I used to always talk to my students about when it came to sports nutrition. I used to show them guidelines around nutrition for the general population, and then I would put it to them, how is an athlete's diet similar? And over time, we'd sort of more or less all come to the same consensus that a healthy diet is a high performance diet, and that athletes just tend to eat a lot more of that good quality stuff, and sometimes in different proportions as well. Obviously we can mix things up in terms of we've got specific goals. We might decide to go higher in protein, maybe slightly lower in carbohydrates, but generally speaking, a healthy diet is made up of adequate amounts of fruits and vegetables, lean proteins, dairies, tubers, and healthy oils in there. And you'll notice there's fish in here at the same time. That's seeds, nuts, and tubers. And the thing about human beings is that we're really evolved and equipped to be nutritional generalists. So although we can survive on diets which aren't optimal for health, these diets are not necessarily the best way to go about trying to perform. So again, we've got things in our nutritional toolbox, things like zone diets, 5-2s, keto and things like that might work, but That's because we're generally well adapted to our environment to be able to use fats, proteins, carbohydrates, and generally what was ever around to allow the organism to survive. And that's evolved over millions of years. So 2 million years ago we were Australopithecus, then we went on to being Homo erectus, and then for about the last 250,000 years, depending on what you read, we've been Homo sapiens. And vitamins and minerals, plant polyphenols, these all perform important roles within our body, and they can be found ubiquitously within plants and animals. So B vitamins, for example, are found in meats. Minerals tend to be found in high quantities in plants and animals. So it's important that we eat a diverse diet so that we can get all of the diverse ranges of vitamins and minerals to make sure that we're not lacking anything, because these things perform important roles within our body and they coexisted along with our evolutionary history to make sure that we were as healthy as we possibly could be. Of course, with any sort of dietary information or training information, it's worth mentioning that some people are high responders or low responders. Some people need a little bit less of a certain vitamin. Some people need a little bit more of a particular vitamin. And some people will respond high to certain diets and low to other diets as well. And our elite athletes tend to be high responders to most things. In terms of bodybuilding down the years, my experience has very often been that bodybuilders tend to take a very basic approach. They work very hard, they've got very basic diets, very basic training splits, and they just tend to outwork the opposition. They've also got fantastic genetics. However, I'm here to tell you that by implementing some of these methods that we use at ProPrep Coaching, e.g. making sure that we've got a more diverse diet, this can help you get that extra little bit of 1 or 2% to push you ahead of people that are maybe perhaps not focusing on some of the things that you're focusing on. Takes time though, and it's not going to happen overnight. And if you look at this little radar plot here, you can see that over the years, as the athlete evolves, they get better at doing things like nutrition, flexibility training, they get better at sports psychology, they build more muscle mass, their strength improves, they get better at data analytics. So it's a gradual process over time, and you should go and watch the high performance sport video that I put together as well if you want to learn more about these different sort of concepts and how you can push yourself ahead. Now, the problem with most bodybuilding diets is that although people get generally high adherence to them, well, bodybuilders do anyway, they tend to be very low in dietary diversity. So this is data from a study that I published in 2018. And you can see here that in terms of a bodybuilder's diet, it's generally made up of these main constituent parts and very low in some of these other sort of areas. 15 food items is very common for a bodybuilder to consume, and then by the end of their competition preps they can be on as little as 9 food items. So it's not a particularly diverse diet, and if you look at this composition here, this is actually 9 food items, and a lot of people would really struggle to follow a diet like this for 20 odd weeks. But you can see how if you just ate the same things all the time, how you might end up being in a position whereby you are potentially lacking in certain nutrients by the end of it. This particular diet, for example, doesn't look particularly high in minerals, nor does it look particularly high in things like iron or omega-3 fatty acids. It's just completely lacking in those sort of things from there. Calcium, the main source, looks like it's coming from whey protein. So we're kind of struggling really here on this one, and it could be even worse if there's not any milk or yogurt or anything like that within this composition. A lot of bodybuilders don't even add berries to their mix. You can see how you're not even managing to get a basic sort of 5 a day that we often talk about. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 food items. 9 food items. And the problem with these diets is that, again, they tend to be lacking in vitamins and minerals, phenolic compounds, so all these colourful compounds, so low in antioxidants. They tend to be low in fibre, low in palatability. Boredom can be an issue. People can become nutrient deficient, so they can become immunologically compromised, you get poor recovery. That impacts performance, and multivitamins are just not going to cut it, guys, because some of these multivitamins are just not absorbed quite as well as the nutrients that you're going to get from fruits and vegetables and a more diverse diet. So a lot of problems with these types of diets. But this is again what we're sort of really looking to try and ensure that we do throughout, which is to track things, ensure we have sufficient fluids, and follow a diverse diet with, again, much more diversity in this particular diet just by adding the tomatoes to the green beans. Now, food swaps, it's very easy to boost the micronutrient content of your diet and change the macronutrient content just by making some simple swaps. So you don't always have to eat rice all the time. Rice and pasta are very similar. White fish, you can go for cod or haddock. However, you could also go for salmon and mackerel and make little changes there. Poultry, it doesn't always have to be chicken. You could have turkey. Tubers, sweet potatoes are easy swaps for white potatoes or red potatoes. Dairy, you can go low-fat cottage cheeses or low-fat yogurts. Again, different nutritional composition. And fruits, very easy to swap bananas and apples. But it's also very easy to swap a lot of your vegetables about at the same time. And if you were to do this sort of thing once a week, you can see the amount of dietary diversity and the amounts of vitamins and minerals that you're going to have within your diet. Quite easy. When your foods aren't similar though, and when I say in the grand scheme of things, there's some minor differences in the macros between those particular food groups, but it's not enough that it really makes all that much of a difference. So you might get, say, 100 calories from an apple and then, say, 98 calories from banana, and you might be looking at, say, a 1 gram difference in terms of the carbohydrate content. That, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't really matter. If foods are really that different and you're looking to make your diet more diverse and you're not sure how to do it, well, you can speak to your coach. So any one of us at ProPrep Coaching, we're there and we're available to help our clients out with that at any time when they want to make those changes. And it's not that difficult for us to do it. Or if you're good at tracking, then it's really easy to have flexibility and to swap things about using apps like MyFitnessPal. We use Nutritics here at ProPrep Coaching. Some good high quality protein meals you can see here. So I'll let you pause this video again and you can have a little look. But one of the main things to note is that animal-based products that tend to be the highest in protein. So you can get a large range of protein, good high quality protein from different sort of sources, and it's easy to make little changes. The only thing we have to be mindful with swaps is that we do have calorie goals and macro goals for a reason. And if you make too many changes, you can end up with something completely different from the plan that you were on. And this will affect your progress. So it's okay to change 1 or 2 things, but if you change the whole thing wholesale, then you might find that you've got a completely different macronutrient and energy content of your diet. And it can be off by 200 calories. And that's definitely enough to affect you when it comes to us losing weight or to potentially us gaining weight, which are often goals that we work with people here. Stability in terms of a diet can be excellent in terms of providing sustained performance. It's very easy to track someone's weight loss or weight gain when they are eating similar things all the time. Also, appearance-wise, it will look similar. So we maybe want to be mindful of what we're doing when it comes to getting ready for things like contest preps or doing photo shoot cuts from there. The other thing to sort of bear in mind is that people tend to justify poor choices when they're making swaps. So be honest with yourself and ask yourself, is this a good swap for what I'm trying to achieve? Okay, so that's our presentation on food swaps. I hope you find it interesting. Some basic things that I would sort of say that are really helpful that I've found down the years is swapping out different veggies. It's very easy to do that. Adding more than one type of berry to a meal, really easy to boost your content there. Having fruit bowls, whereby you've got lots of different types of fruits. It's very easy to have a couple of satsumas or tangerines instead of an apple one day. Swapping out things like pears and peaches, again, so you can get a higher content there. Having different cereals for breakfasts, so things like Weetabix instead of oats. Having different carbohydrate sources, so pasta, bulgur wheat, quinoa. Again, very useful ways in which we can get more diversity out of the diet. The thing is, you've got to plan for it, and you've got to know what you're doing on here. So have a think about this, know where you can up your game, and believe me, it will impact your performance. You'll get much more micronutrients in diet, much more antioxidants in diet, and that can significantly help your performance. Once again, if you found this information useful, be sure to get in touch with us at ProPrep Coaching. We'd love to work with you and get you on our stages or get you towards one of your goals that you have in mind. And finally, if you want to find out more information, then please check out us on the Instagram and also check us out on our website as well. I'm Dr. Andrew Spelt. Thank you for your attention.